Good evening. The Gaza Strip is once again engulfed in violence as relentless Israeli airstrikes claim countless lives, leaving devastation in their wake. Over 200 lives have been lost since January the 4th this year, and the humanitarian crisis has reached unbearable levels. Amid this chaos, mediators from Qatar, Egypt and the United States continue to push for a ceasefire. Can diplomacy bring an end to the suffering, or will the violence overshadow the efforts for peace? Let's get in focus. A deeply moving article in Forbes brings to light the harrowing reality of life in Gaza, where families grapple with acute food insecurity and daily survival under relentless bombardment. Stories of children going to bed hungry and parents risking their lives for basic sustenance reveal the unimaginable toll of this conflict. With over 200 lives lost since January the 4th, 2025, the humanitarian crisis has reached breaking point. The international community faces an urgent moral imperative to address this catastrophe alongside diplomatic efforts to end the violence. Joining us now to talk more about this is Dr. Abdul Nasser Maki, who is a political science professor from occupied Jerusalem. Doctor, thank you for being with us here on Q News. So the Israeli strikes on Gaza have intensified over the past few days, leading to more and more casualties. What do you make of this escalation?
I think the Israeli, as you mentioned, now they are continue to bombing Gaza, to attack all the even the hospitals, and also the places that the refugees go there, which is should be security by the law. The Israeli is also want and they practice the genocide there. What they want, the Israeli, they want an area without any residents from Gaza. They continue to bombing. What is the purpose? The purpose is that they said that there is a missiles launched from Gaza, and also they said that they don't want anyone to stay on the north of Gaza. And because of this, we witnessed that many of the disaster there, many of the casualties, thousands of people have been killed because of the Israeli didn't want to anybody to stay there in this area. So this is the reason. And as you know, the Israeli continue to practice the genocide in this area. In their mind, as Netanyahu said, that by fire, by killing the people, they could, give some of the new conditions from Hamas to be given up by Hamas. And this is like what he said, it's like something win a victory for him. So this is blackmail. He want to kill the people in order to get more less conditions from Hamas to release the hostages there.
Of course, we have the mediators from Egypt and Qatar and the United States facilitating the negotiations. But when it comes to the recent intensification of the airstrikes, how does that impact the ongoing ceasefire talks?
Yes, I think it will be negatively impact because that's when they kill the people and they bombing and also they destroy the hospitals and they continue to practice the genocide, I think it will be affect negatively on the talks in Qatar, and also at the same time, it's more complicated. يعني, that's mean when we are talking about the practice of Israeli to killing the people in north of Gaza, and in the same time there is negotiation in Qatar. Really, it's يعني, negatively, as I said. And by this way, Israeli government or Netanyahu, he tried to send a letter and message to Hamas that he will continue to kill and bombing and attacking because nobody is response or stop him in order to get more give up from Hamas to his conditions. Uh, but I think there is something under the table, as we noticed and we heard from the news that there is Israeli delegation in Qatar. He come back to Israel yesterday, and today it's supposed to that the head of intelligence of the Mossad of the Israeli intelligence go to Qatar, but they postponed it. I think Netanyahu is every time try to that's to push on all the mediators in order to get more that's in things good for Israel, to push on or pressure on Hamas in order to list more restriction by their demands.
Well, Hamas, of course, has reportedly agreed to release a list of 34 Israeli captives as part of the negotiations. Is that a significant development?
Yes, I think it's significant development. It is one of the demands that have been, or conditions by Hamas, by the mediators from Hamas. I think it was in the last December. So Hamas response, and it was more flexible to the demands and the negotiation in Qatar last December. And they mentioned about 34 hostages, their names alive. And this is Hamas, what Hamas have been requested from Hamas, they fulfill it. So they provide the mediators with the name of the hostages, while in the same time now the Israeli government should also respond positively by give some indicators or some positive things, which like to ceasefire and also to stop killing the people there. But until now, as you know, we noticed that maybe about from 60 to 70 people have killed in Gaza. Today, Israeli, they expand their bombing in all Gaza, the north and the south, and also in the middle. And also at the same time, they bombing the hospitals, Indonesian hospitals, and also the refugee places where, like in Anorwa, in the schools. Until now, there is no any response from the Israeli, because also today the cabinet met to discuss also the deal of the hostages. But until now, there is no any response. And also today, as you know, the consultants or the from the American went to Qatar, and also at the same time, the statements of Blinken that in 2 weeks they should release the hostages and they should reach to agreement before Trump come to the administration.
And Doctor, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is, of course, worsening on a daily basis. How does that crisis, how does the suffering of human beings in Gaza make a sustainable ceasefire more likely? Does it make it more likely? Do the parties even care about the humanitarian crisis?
I think from the Israeli, they are not care. From the Israeli side, they are not care. They are caring for the even for their hostages. As you know, there are many videos that they mentioned that the government of Israel, especially the declaration and the statement of the Smotrich and Ben Gvir, they are not care with even the 100 hostages. They are just want to still and continue killing the people there, regardless the South, as you mentioned about the miserable condition in Gaza, the cold, the starvation, the death of many of the children. Today, one of the children, 34 days, killed, also died because of the cold and also because of the lack of that's the food. So the humanitarian crisis in Gaza for the Israeli is not, they are not care for this. But I think for Hamas, Hamas mentioned that they want to go ahead and more flexible in order to change the situation and because it responses to the people they are suffering in Gaza. And also at the same time, I think also the Qatar also and Egypt, they are more now look to the conditions or the miserable condition in Gaza. So I hope that maybe in this week or next week before Trump is coming to the White House, that there will be like statements about ceasefire. Otherwise, it will be catastrophic, and I think there will be more killing and miserable in Gaza. Something I want to mention is that the Israeli government, according to some, that's news, said that or mentioned that the Israeli want to continue, that's pushing on the people to go to the middle and to south of Gaza. And this is one of the reasons that the people in Gaza, even their response that they didn't want to leave their houses, even in the north of Gaza, regardless what Israel is doing there.
Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu, you mentioned this before actually, has emphasized continued operations until the detainees are returned. Does this have an effect on any possible ceasefire?
Even that he mentioned this before, and from the beginning he said that he have two, that's purposes, which is to defeat Hamas and also to release the hostages, to return back to their home. But until now, he didn't do anything for these two purposes. He continued to, that's repeat these statements that he want to continue. The fire without, he continued to kill the people. He wanted to bomb Gaza and to push in Hamas. And he said that he will not go to ceasefire until the hostages will be released. I don't think this is realistic. Now, I think even the Israeli the public in Israel now they uh, started to know that this is statement from Netanyahu is not realistic. He just didn't want to go to ceasefire, not because of that he want to go to victory or to push in Hamas, because he is afraid that the next day, which is the ceasefire, he will go to another place, maybe to the jail. So this is the things that the people now in Israel start to think to more realistic that Netanyahu is not said the truth to the people of Israel.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Q News, Dr. Meki from occupied Jerusalem. Thank you very much for joining us here on Q News. So as Gaza continues to endure unimaginable suffering, the pursuit of a sustainable ceasefire remains critical. Now, the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is on the verge of collapse amid increasing accusations of violations from both sides. With Israel threatening to extend its military occupation in southern Lebanon and Hezbollah warning of patience running thin, the region may face once again an alarming escalation in Lebanon. Can this precarious truce hold, or are we witnessing the prelude to yet another devastating conflict? A report from Ahram Online exposes Israel's provocative threat to extend its military occupation in southern Lebanon beyond the agreed 60-day ceasefire. This blatant act of aggression disregards the fragile truce, intensifying the suffering of Lebanese civilians and exposing the expansionist ambitions that risk plunging the region into chaos. The world must not stand idly by as these provocations escalate tensions and undermine peace efforts. Now, to explore the stakes and the potential outcomes, we are joined by Brigadier General Marcel Barucci, a military and strategic expert. Thank you very much for being here with us on Q News. Now, Brigadier General, the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon has been described as fragile. What are the main challenges?
Good evening to you and the esteemed viewers. The Lebanese situation regarding the ceasefire is linked to the regional pass and reaching President Trump. Despite the international community to supervise the violation of ceasefire, the Israeli enemy still occupying 60 villages in Lebanon. They will leave in a heated area that it is to ban any entering from the UNIFIL or Lebanese, and even the Israel through the to supervise and to hit it with drones, and therefore this land, the Israelis won't withdraw before securing the protection of the Israeli settlement. And Hezbollah should not pose any threat against Israel. Up till now, despite the strong case of Hezbollah and its leaders is still launching missiles and send drones north of Israel and the the people. And otherwise, Israel won't evacuate the area. They occupy several villages, but the big project hasn't come to a decisive end yet. Even for 60 days of ceasefire and more 30 days, awaiting for the withdrawal of Hezbollah beyond the Litani Nevel. Up till now, Hezbollah never dismantled the infrastructure, as the Israelis still occupying 60 villages of Lebanon.
Now, the agreement requires Hezbollah to withdraw north of the Litani River and for Israeli forces to pull back from southern Lebanon. How realistic is this?
The reality of this proposed thing isn't being executed. Hezbollah, due to its strengths, domination internally on the keys of the Lebanese system, the blackmailing the issue by electing president in 3 days and appointing a president to form a security for Hezbollah that's supposed to be withdrawn beyond the Litani River to put pressures with the international community as well as the US envoy Pakistan to demand, to ask for more demands in order to execute this project and get back to the Litani. And Hezbollah is facing great challenges. The Israeli violation in Golan Heights is still fragile rock of Hezbollah is staying, and the construction isn't going to be financed before the arrangement to take effect. And the great support is still displaced and no supplies. All these challenges weaken Hezbollah with respect to confronting Israel if they try to get supplied in the Syrian front, but inside Lebanon is still strong and preventing the election of President to guarantee its political and military future. Up till now, there is no political proposals of Hezbollah to execute 1925 and to go back to the north of the Litani River, but the Israeli enemy is still, through the drones, pursuing Hezbollah and bombarding housing in the borders area, and still the agreement will allow in the secret draft between Israel and USA would allow them to intervene. But following the supervision of the committee within 40 hours, the Israeli, along with the air forces, to deal with the targets in Lebanon that they consider are hostiles.
Now, the international community is playing a part, of course. International actors like the United States and France have been instrumental in brokering the ceasefire. How effective has their role been? And also, are they any good at all at ensuring compliance?
The international community, either USA and France, is playing double standard role, supporting Israel, and that has a main goal is a nuclear Iranian dossier that will be dealt soon, as well as the Iranian proxy that to go out of the Middle East is an international European and Arab request. And the air project to extend Israel in supporting these main goals. The Western and American response, in a way, will grant to the committee to regulate the ceasefire, and in the meantime, supporting the strength of Hezbollah in Lebanon and breaking the arms of Iran in reaching the nuclear fire. These are double goals. The situation in Lebanon should be disciplined, and in the meantime, the main goal would be achieved by exiting Iran in the Middle East and by reaching Trump in the White House to deal the nuclear file. That would be reflected the Lebanese and Gaza situations, as well as the Syrian challenges will be different, and with the Iraqi popular rally in Iraq and Iran. These are linked in the upcoming period that would reflect the throughout the region, but the situation in Lebanon will be suspended, and the work of the committee for 60 or 90 added days, and the breaches will continue.
Okay, let me bring you up on that point, if I could, Brigadier General. Given the history of the conflicts between Israel and Hezbollah, what's the likelihood that the ceasefire will last beyond the 60 days?
There will be extended awaiting of the main goal will be the truce will be breaking, and the war will get back again in Lebanon, and the breaches will be limited, regulated by the committee, and Hezbollah won't do any harm feeling the upcoming confrontation as its military abilities were weakened. So will be within in Lebanon awaiting of the passing of the storm, and within 22 days or 3 days to needs a time to rebuild its strength. Hezbollah up till now is not going to open the war with Israel. Internal breaches will remain within the Israeli enemy, and the Hezbollah will be disciplined, awaiting of the upcoming phases, what was going to happen, and the President Trump plan and project with the Iranian nuclear file.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Brigadier General Marcel Barouchi, for this critical analysis. Thank you very much for being here. The fragile ceasefire remains a delicate balancing act, and its outcome could shape the future of regional stability. So as Gaza reels under the relentless violence and Lebanon navigates this fragile truce, the road ahead remains perilous. In Focus will continue to bring you updates and thoughtful analysis on these pressing issues. Thank you for watching. Until next time.